Hey there! In this video I want to show you how you might refactor and unit test an Express controller. This might be relevant when the complexity of your application grows. When creating a new controller, I want to start simple. I don't want to start with all these abstractions and complexity when I don't need it. I want to have integration tests to make sure that I'm doing the right thing and to protect me when I'm going to refactor it in the future. So when I'm going to refactor it, I'm just going to remember that ideally the REST API should only be responsible for the inputs and outputs and nothing else. So I'll demonstrate how you might refactor the controller and add tests as we go. The controller that we're going to refactor is simple, but I would not like adding much more complexity to it as is. Let's look at it. It's parsing some inputs, throwing some errors if it's not valid. It's parsing some outputs. It has some validation to check if a name is correct for when you're adding a guess, and it has a method to get guesses. I added integration tests to this controller in a separate video, see a link in the description. But let's now run the tests in watch mode so we can be sure we're not breaking anything when we start refactoring. The controller has a method called addGuess. I think it's more transparent what it does if you call this postGuess. So let's refactor that. And the routes. We have the tests to safeguard us, everything is working. So now we can take the business logic and copy it to a separate method. So let's call it addGuess. And we're gonna just return the result here. Don't need to wait. Alright, and then we're gonna call it here. You can save and see if everything is running. Yes. Now you want to copy this to a separate file here. Yes, service. Post it here, export it. You also need the interface for the business layer and some imports. Let's just copy this all over and delete the ones we don't need. So this is looking sleek. This is looking lean. So let's look at the tests. All right. Let's create a test file. Let's describe our component and import the methods that we're gonna test. So addGuess and iGuess input. And let's start with the failing test. So if we look at the service, it's gonna fail here if the name target does not exist. This needs to be asynchronous, and we are gonna use can expect this to fail, so we're gonna await expect addGuess, and then we need some input arguments here. Let's look here at the interface, user ID, name, and name target ID, and we want this to reject to throw, and then the error, this error here. Looks good. Now let's add the next test. Should guess the correct name. So let's call the method. Let's look at the results. We see it's not working, and that's because we didn't mock the response yet. These tests are now calling actual implementations, so that's not something what you want in our unit tests. We want them to be isolated. So let's mock them or fake the responses of them. So we'll start by importing the services that we're gonna mock. then we'll call guess.mock and the path here. So this will actually now not call the actual implementations, but instead just call implementation that returns undefined for everything. So let's see the test results now. This is now failing because we're returning undefined. So let's change that. So let's first create a constant for our method, find name target. So let's find the method here and cast this as just.mock. And then we can fake a response here, mock return value. And here we're gonna return an object. And the value of the object should be a name target with a name. So this is the correct name that we're gonna guess here. And then in the second test we're gonna return null. So let's see if our tests are now passing. Yes. This test isn't verifying anything, so let's change that. So if you look at the implementation, this method is called here, create guess, and the parameter sent to this method, that's the interesting thing. So let's create a variable here, and now let's expect that this method is called, should be called with actually just this object here plus it is correct true. So let's look at the test results. Looking good. And now we need another test like this with the incorrect name. Value here is incorrect, and then this here is false. Great. We've tested the most important pieces, but we've not tested that we're actually returning the result. So let's do that for completeness sake. So create guess, mock return value, and let's just say that this is returning an object created at some date, and then we're going to take the result here into a variable, and then we're going to expect the result to equal this here. And let's save this and check our test results. Looking good. And now let's do the same for the other one. Mock return value, and then expect the results. Looking good. When using mocks, it's often a good practice to reset their values after each test. So let's do that. Did not use this one explicitly. There is some duplication in my tests, but I like to keep the tests explicit. I also like to chunk the tests, so I have a separate phase here called arrange, then act, and then assert. I recommend that you Google this pattern. This is very nice to keep the tests clean. Well, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe and comment if you'd like me to go further with any concepts in the video. Thank you.